Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our meeting. This is a staff meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, it's April 1st. Yikes, I didn't realize that until this moment. Happy April Fool's Day, everyone. 2025. Before we get started, we're going to make introductions here at the dais.
Christy Rischel, Assistant Clerk.
Leslie Hervey, Clerk to the Board.
Stephanie Summerall Dumas, Commissioner.
Jeff Aludo, County Administrator.
Patrick Dressing, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney.
And I'm Commissioner Denise Driehaus. So we've got 3 items on our agenda today, all very interesting items, and we've got a lot of people in the room, which is a lot of fun for those of us that long for people to come to our meetings. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We're going to do the Downtown Cincinnati Improvement District presentation first. Brian Banke is here with DCID. He is the board chair, and he's brought a team of people with him. So please come forward, and we'll welcome your presentation.
Thank you, Rutch. Thanks for inviting me and our team here. We're going to share some information about Downtown Cincinnati Improvement District, which we also call DCID. We have an upcoming renewal. I'd like to share some information on that. Members of 3CDC with me are Alex Martin, Community Engagement Manager, Marissa Reed, Director of Operations, and David Visman, who's the Vice President of Operations. And if any questions come up, they can also help out. But DCID is a special improvement district. It was for downtown Cincinnati. It was created in 1997. It's been renewed on 4-year terms for 8 times since then. And as I mentioned, it's currently up for renewal for the 2026 to 2029 term. If you would go to the next slide. Oh, it's right here for me, if I would do that. All right. There we go. So yeah, there's a quick map showing the boundaries. It's basically Central Parkway on the north, Eggleston on the east, the river on the south, and Central Avenue on the west, excluding the 2 stadiums. But basically the district was created to fund additional monies via approval of the property owners within the district to provide services over and above what the government entities would normally provide. And you know, I would say that Hamilton County has been a huge partner in this in the beginning, and we very much appreciate the support that you've given in a lot of different ways for that. We do have a board structure in place to ensure that we're governing the funds that we receive properly. There's a 9-member board. 5 members are elected by the property owners. 2 are appointed by the city. 1 by the county. Our representative is Harry Blanton. And 1 is from the Building Owners and Management Association, BOMA. And we meet regularly and ensure that we're providing the right governance oversight to make sure that the monies that we do assess property owners are spent the proper way in alignment with the service plan. Main purpose is around safe and clean, welcoming environment of downtown, encouraging and developing, promoting downtown as a vibrant community, place for activity, people to come and either live, work, play, and also advocate for just growth of downtown and support of the businesses and the needs of downtown. Real quickly on the DCID renewal, the current term expires December 31st, 2025. We have sent petitions out to property owners within the district boundaries, and we're waiting for responses. We've set a target for April 25th for those responses, and the way it would work, if we get 60% of the front footage of downtown property owners approving the petition, it would be approved. There's also a provision for 75% of the assessed value, but typically the 60% threshold is what we've achieved. Historically, it's been 74% response rate. Last time it was 75%. We've seen a continual uptick in support from downtown property owners over the years. Once we get the petitions back, assuming everybody approves that, or at least we get the threshold, we'd submit that to the city for their approval. And then if approved, we'd let the property owners know in the fall that we're going forward for another 4 years. From a budget standpoint, so we assess, the current plan is based on a special assessment of across the district of $3.6 million spread across the property owners by a calculation based on their front footage and their assessed value. And in addition to the money we raise for the property assessments, 3CDC also has other revenue sources that they work with, other partners, Hamilton County being one of them, to supplement that overall budget. So the overall budget for the district is closer to $4.5 million. And you can see the various, safe and clean, like I was mentioning, beautification efforts, Generosity 513, which the county is a big supporter of and partners with us on, is another big part of that budget. And we look forward to continuing all those programs in the next renewal period. We do have a couple areas that we highlighted specifically with the work that we do. One is around, and actually on the budget, I should mention that the county has 19 properties, and the assessments averages would be averaging over the 4-year period around $130,000. But for some of the work that's been completed, 2 areas that we just wanted to highlight were the social services outreach program. Again, the county is a big partner in that, and also the work that 3CDC does on workforce development. I think everybody has a copy of the services plan that provides more detail on the various things that we're working on. From a social services standpoint, Generosity 513 is a major program that we focus on serving people who are experiencing homelessness or maybe panhandling in the downtown area, and just working to connect them with the right social services, get them the support that they need. If they're experiencing homelessness, help them get into housing, and serve our community in that way. There's a jobs van that goes around during parts of the year and offers day work for people who may be homeless or out in the streets, give them opportunity. It's also a great way to connect with the community, those individuals, and maybe create some relationships that ultimately get them into the social services that they might need. But you can see that the city, Hamilton County Mental Health Recovery Services Board, and City Gospel Mission, GCB, Strategies to End Homelessness are all part of that partnership consortium that 3CDC works with. Again, a big focus on chronic homelessness and people that are experiencing that. And then from a workforce development, I just happened to see that April is Second Chance Month. And 3CDC does work with Hamilton County Office of Reentry and others on providing employment opportunities for people who may have second, third chance opportunity needs to get back in the community, and they provide a lot of benefits and financial planning and coaching and other services just to help their employees. So that, I think, really is a quick nutshell of what we're doing. We very much appreciate the continued support. I think Administrator Ludo, you have the petition, or should have the petition, and if there's any questions on that, we're glad to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your team for being here. We appreciate that. Just a couple of questions. So related to the social services portion of what you do, I know the focus is safe and clean. So can you help us understand, you mentioned some of the partners strategies for one. Can you help us better understand what that interaction looks like as you encounter people that maybe are experiencing homelessness or need a chance to work that day? What does the interaction look like?
Would you mind if
Sure.
Marissa kind of comes up, because she's working with them daily?
Great, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. So the street outreach portion of Generosity 513 is a contract with Greater Cincinnati Behavioral Health Services. So we have 4 full-time outreach workers, as well as a 5th seasonal outreach worker that works from April through October to help with the anticipated influx of clients that we generally see outside of the coldest months of the year. So those outreach workers are out on the street 7 days a week. We have an outreach hotline that anyone can call, whether there's someone who themselves is struggling, or if you see someone who is struggling, an outreach worker will respond to that location and engage with that individual, try to understand what their situation is. If needed, complete a housing assessment and get that individual in the system to be matched to a housing program and ultimately housed. If someone is already housed, they'll talk to them about what other services they may need, whether that is connecting to a jobs program and talking about employment, connecting them to mental health services through GCB or another agency. So they're very well connected to the kind of broader social service network, and we'll work with that individual to get them connected to the services that they need. So I think what's unique about this program is that it meets people where they are on the street. So, it's not relying on somebody to go to a social service agency and deal with the transportation or knowing where to go or what their hours are. These outreach workers are available every day of the week to go out and discuss with individuals who are experiencing homelessness or who are panhandling in the downtown area, see what their needs are, and try to get them connected to those needs.
Thank you. Did you have something to add, or? Your moral support back there? Okay, so then I have one question really for all of you. So you mentioned that there are 19 county buildings that are in the district. And so I just want to highlight that because, and that's significant, a significant portion of our campus is in this geography of the district. And so as we have these programs available, I'm not sure everybody that's in those county buildings knows that those programs are available and knows how to get a hold of you. And so could you please, as we move forward on this, make sure that there is a contact person that we can easily identify and reach out to when there's something going on, and I mean for the whole county campus, because I'm not sure everybody's aware of the service. So I just want to highlight that and make sure that people have access to it.
Alex Martin is our community engagement manager, and she and David spend a lot of time going out and meeting with property owners, but we'll make sure that that's a definite focus for the county.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Summer-Odumas?
Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. I think this is a great strategic, organized way to empower those people in that area that you serve and to mobilize the services. When you talk about social services, I remember, I think I met you at the Mental Health Board annual meeting, ICRC-TV, and I said, people need to know about you. But people knew about you, but I didn't know about you. So I think it's great, the work that you do. And as you listed the other social service agencies, they are a younger group than the other ones that are listed, which is great. But I just want to thank you again for all the great, fantastic work that you're doing. And so I wanted to ask you, the term ends for DCID at the end of this year.
December 31st.
So does that mean that the board changes at the same time, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we will have in our annual meeting in November, assuming we know that it's been renewed for another term, we would have elections at that point in time.
Okay. And so then the terms are 4-year terms?
Yeah, they match up the service plan.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese?
Thank you for the presentation. I had a question. Was this originally the DCI that got
Downtown
absorbed by
Cincinnati,
3CDC?
Yes.
Okay.
Our contract is technically still with Downtown Cincinnati. That's been now merged with 3CDC.
Okay, because they don't exist anymore. Well, thank you for the presentation, and I did have a question because I said the contract doesn't end till the end of December, and we do our budget once a year in December, and so that's why I was just trying to. I guess that's a question for Mr. Ludo, but it's on the calendar to vote for this week.
Yeah, and so we assumed the continuation of the improvement district in the budget, so there's no issue with the timing here.
Gotcha. Okay. And then is it 130,000 each year for 4 years? Is what
That's the average. It's about 126, and it goes up 3% a year.
Okay, so about $500,000 we would for 4 years
Yes.
that we're voting on. Okay, we'll vote on it one time and then it's in for 4 years. Correct. Gotcha. Okay. My other question I would just want to highlight, because we also give other dollars, I guess, to 3CDC, and you mentioned some of these other things that 3CDC is able to do. Are they able to do it with the $130,000, or is that something they'll be coming? Because we fund other things too.
Yeah, the 130,000 average is what contributes to that $3.6 million assessment to the property owners, and then there's another $900,000 in revenue sources that 3CDC is working with different agencies and partners to collect. And some of it's through revenues on Fountain Square and other things that then they put back into services. But that is the 130,000 average does not include the contributions to Generosity 513.
Okay. And then can you tell us, or someone tell us, what do you get for the 130,000? Not the extra that, because we fund other stuff. I'll get to that in a minute. Like mental health comes from the tax levy people. But what for the 130, our 19 buildings, is that the cleaning areas that we get?
It's safe and clean. That's really what started DCID and that whole program, because people just didn't feel comfortable, like at the time, coming downtown. So a huge focus was on making people feel safe, making the place clean, making it welcoming, and that's a huge part of it. You'll see ambassadors with their 3C DC uniforms out, maybe pressure washing streets, helping people with directions, helping people maybe at evenings if they need to get to a car and they don't feel comfortable. But those ambassadors are out there really just to help anybody, and they're scattered around the city, and safe and clean is a huge part of it. Then there's also the promotion of downtown. Think about the events at Christmas holiday, New Year's time, the events on Fountain Square and the things that get promoted there, just to make people want to come down and come into the city, either to live, to work, or just to come down and spend money and support our businesses down here.
Thank you, because we have people watching, so I just wanted them to know exactly what it does, and considering that we got 49 municipalities, and someone else watching say, I want them to come downtown in my municipality. So I wanted them to know exactly what that goes toward. Now, getting to Generosity 513, and it may not be for you guys, I'm not sure, but I know that I have had a lot of questions with the strategies to end homelessness. That's a bold statement. It sounds great, but homelessness is going up. It hasn't been going down, so we're not doing a great job of ending it. One of the things that we would have grants and so forth come through here. We'll vote for $20 million, for example. And then I would get on my elevator and go downstairs if somebody's outside and say, y'all ain't did nothing, I need help, I'm homeless. And the gentleman who does strategies to end homelessness, he wasn't able to show up this year, but last year he did show up. And he indicated that they're not allowed to help anybody. So then they said, we're coming with this new model, and that they were working with 3CDC. This is in addition to the $130,000. We put some money toward it. I can't remember the numbers right now, in addition to the $130,000 that you get every year. And I'll be honest, I hadn't really seen the help. And not only did we put money toward it, but taxpayers are paying more on property taxes right now because they went and voted for more money for mental health. And so I just want to make sure, and I kept asking the administrator, when we going to see somebody in a T-shirt downstairs with an iPad or something to help these folks, because I really can't live with myself to do 20 million upstairs in the 6th floor and then go on the elevator on the 1st floor, and the people can't get help. So he put it on, I guess the name of it, Generosity 513 is the one responsible. He claimed his hands was tied. He couldn't do anything. So can you maybe talk to that? Because I have not personally seen anybody. Now the sheriffs, we said we want some safety around here. I saw the people on bikes with the sheriff, new polo shirts and bikes. But every time we vote, I never see anybody down here doing, and I know it's a big city part, but it's like you work with one of the greatest companies in the world, Procter & Gamble, and the CEO said we do an initiative. He wouldn't want to walk outside and see in front the initiative he just voted on is not working. So can you maybe talk about that? Because I didn't know it was you guys. I thought it was the strategies to end homelessness, but he came and said it's not him. So I'm just trying to find out who is responsible for it.
Thank you. So Generosity 513 does provide the street outreach services generally speaking, for the downtown area. Again, we have those 4 outreach workers. They work 7 days a week. So there are times when we only have 1 to 2 outreach workers that are out in the city. So they are covering, to your point, a pretty large area. That said, as the weather warms up and we have that additional outreach worker, we have some more flexibility to have someone be present in areas where we do see higher rates of individuals who are sleeping, who might be panhandling. Court Street, we know, is one of those areas that requires a little additional attention. So with that, we have deployment schedules that we try to stick to with the outreach team as the weather gets warmer. So they are trying to spend more time on Court Street, particularly, early morning hours, lunchtime hours, right after work, when we see people who are traveling in between businesses, and there may be, more instances of panhandling, or there's people that are sleeping in doorways that may require assistance as well. The only thing that I would say to not seeing someone is that, if someone does call that outreach hotline and they're down the street, maybe they're on Vine Street near the library, they have someone who has said, I could really use some help, and they've called the outreach hotline. That outreach worker is going to go from Court Street, where they're trying to spend some time and be visible, and go engage with that individual who has called for help in that moment. So while we do try to maintain visibility in certain areas like Court Street, there are times when those outreach workers are taking individuals to appointments to talk about housing, they're taking them to medical appointments, or they're engaging with individuals who have called the outreach hotline. So it's certainly an area where we can improve and recognize that. But I think one thing that has been mentioned already is that a lot of people may not be aware that Generosity 513 is a resource. They may not know that hotline number. And so if there are additional opportunities either within the county and county properties to spread the word about this program and make sure that people have that hotline number handy. We've also talked about installing different signage in places like garages or businesses so that people are aware that this is a resource. We're always happy to come to different groups and present about the program and make sure that more people are aware that this is a resource and that they can call that hotline number. So we'd be more than happy to come present to any groups within this building or other county buildings to make sure that people are aware.
I appreciate that, but I got to really be honest. I just can't vote on something, money, and then we have this PowerPoint presentation, and then I go downstairs, and now you're telling me I got to get a phone number to help them out. I've been asking for this for a while before it was even coordinated, and they said the answer is this. And every time, like Strategies to End Homeless, he comes up and says his hands is tied, he can't do nothing. Now, we know the courthouse is a hot spot. We know that Kroger's is a hot spot. And like I said, the sheriffs are the only people that I've seen. I've seen the power washing and the cleaning. We're doing a good job with that. But I have not seen this thing. And everything is an extra cost. It's like an a la carte. So today we're paying really for safety and power washing. But then it has these other things that we also paid for. And then the taxpayers, homeowners who are struggling, have paid extra for mental health. And at some point, we got to start seeing some things. And it can't keep coming back. We need some more money. I've been asking for this program, and they said when it comes, you go, oh, man, it's on its way. And I'm just saying, as much as I'm in and out of this building and a lot of other people, I should see somebody. I saw the sheriffs, and they got the whole county to cover. They don't even, we got police department downtown Cincinnati, and I end up seeing them. So I would recommend that you have a conversation with the sheriff's office immediately and see what they're doing and how we could maybe they can help with that. I don't know what they could do, but I just can't. You're not asking for $20 million, but we had something for homelessness, $20 million. Now we're here with $500,000. Then we got, I wish I would have brought my numbers, what we paid into for this Generosity 513. And then we did more tax dollars for mental health. At some point, we got to see some results. So I know today we're talking about the power washing and the cleaning. I certainly support that. I do see the ambassadors doing that. They've been doing it for many years. I support that. But this a la carte menu of tax money, I've got to be a little stronger on some of those areas. And I have been very vocal about, just don't sit well with me and get down on the elevator. 20 million upstairs and $0 downstairs. And the thing he told me was, want me to go out and do all, well, what the $20 million paying for, you know? So I just want to say that we want to see results. And I don't know what you're doing in the other areas. I'm just saying from Kroger's to the courthouse is a hot spot. And I would assume to see at some point within 24 hours in a day that I saw somebody. I saw somebody cleaning. I saw somebody sweeping. So I will be supportive of that. But I have not seen anybody on this, except for the sheriffs who are now on bikes. So I wanted to pass that on. Not you need to be invited. You can call the sheriff. I'm inviting you to call the sheriff and find out how we could get a plan. So we could just start seeing too many people sleeping and homeless in front of the building that need help. So just wanted to put that, since you put it in the presentation, I wanted to bring that up to you. That's all that I have. I appreciate the power washing and the cleaning and the ambassadors who I think do a very good job.
Thank you. Did you have something?
Yeah, I have a comment. And I just wanted to indicate that I do see your people out there. I stay a little later. And I also appreciate the fact that you were saying how many people that you have to do this, to perform this responsibility. And I certainly appreciate you guys trying to utilize the people that you have. And in the long run, homelessness is going to get worse. It's not going to get better. I don't care how hard we work with the lack of funding that administration in Washington is looking at cutting. So we have to strategically as a board, and so the people that are working in the homeless community figure out how are we going to handle this. And we're talking about, as Kevin Finn of the Strategies to End Homelessness indicated, there are more families that are homeless now than ever before. So, and I believe he said as far as prevention, he can't be a part of that, but he is absolutely doing something as relates to placing people once they are homeless. So that's pretty sad that it's not just him, that we can't work with the prevention component of it. But as I was saying, I have seen you guys out there. I appreciate what you do. And I'm hoping, as you say, as it gets hotter, you'll be able to get more people to help you. But go forth and conquer. I appreciate it.
Can I ask Mr. Aludo to work with you all and get us a quarterly report on what's happening in front of this building? I think that would help us. What's the quarterly report? Who's there? Who have we helped? What was the needs? I think that would help us if you could work together with them. I know it just started, but
Yeah, I'm happy.
on the generosity part.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I have the past couple of quarters I've forwarded along some information from the 3CDC effort. I think last year. Well, first of all, just backing up high level, I think it would make sense. I think, Commissioner, as you said, there's stories behind all of these interactions, whether it's connection to homeless services, whether it's substance abuse, whether it's mental health. There's stories with all of them, and it's real easy to just make it generic with a number. Like what I pass along to the board on a quarterly basis or so are the numbers associated with this. I think last year there was about 4,000 interactions between the 3CDC street outreach folks and folks in the downtown area, and that's broken down into, again, people connections for homeless, substance abuse, et cetera. But I think if the board would indulge us, maybe a quarterly discussion in staff meeting or something to talk about some of the direct placements that have been made, some of the, specifically here on Court Street, just so you can have that personalized story. Because it's one thing to see the numbers, it's another thing to kind of understand the stories behind it. So, Commissioner Reese, to your question, yes, we'll continue to pass along the numbers, but I think it would be helpful to have some discussion here about what do the numbers mean? What's the story behind the numbers?
Can I just offer an anecdotal? I just want to weigh in because the reason I asked the question about whether or not people in the buildings that are served in this district know how to connect with the. So there was an incident, it's been a while back, it was in the warm months, it was last year, and there was a woman who was clearly having a mental health crisis out in the street. And she had her belongings, they were in a garbage bag, a plastic bag, and they were strewn all over one of the parking spots out in front of this building. And she was clearly in danger if someone didn't see her on the ground and were to pull in to that spot. And I was very nervous, and it was fairly late in the afternoon. And so I called, I didn't know who to call, which was to my point. If I had known your number, I would have just called. But I called Steve Leeper because I knew that 3CDC was part of this outreach effort. And within 5 minutes, someone was out there helping her gather up her things, trying to understand what the crisis was, trying to connect her. So I've anecdotally seen this in action. And that's why I'm so keen on making sure that everybody that works in all of our buildings, and all the other buildings for that matter, know who the contact person is, because you can't be everywhere at one time. And so we are witness to what's happening, and we are the ones that can say, hey, we've got a situation, not sure, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at, but there are professionals that do know what they're looking at. And I was tempted to engage myself, and I thought, you know what, I know that's not the right thing to do. I just need to get an expert out here. And it happened within 5 minutes. So I do think it's helpful to kind of put a face on this or a situation on this. That's why I was asking to better understand what these interactions look like and how critical they are to the individuals that you're engaging. Because I don't know what the end result was, but I knew that she needed help.
She's now in a nursing home, and what Marissa didn't add on there is we keep a by name list with photo of all these individuals that we're working with throughout the community and know exactly where they're at in kind of that process. So I think depending on the level of detail that we want to go into a report, I think maybe a get together would make the most sense to kind of go through, you know, in whatever level of detail you want to see that. A lot of the work that the staff is doing is kind of behind the scenes of taking them to appointments like Marissa said, or connecting with them, you know, maybe not right out in front of here, but maybe over at the library or over at a table on Court Street, outside of one of the restaurants. We're consistently following up and connecting with those individuals. And we had a lot of great success with 2 or 3 chronic clients just like her that were out on Court Street last year, that 2 in a nursing home. 1, unfortunately, was in prison and just recently got back out, and we're working with her. But each one of those individuals has a story, and we're working with each one of them on what that pathway is to find that success.
Great.
Yeah, Commissioner, I just want to add to that, because we had an employee, our clerk was walking to the car and got hit almost upside the head. So I don't question the work. I haven't seen, I saw the sheriff said they're going to do something, and I saw them. And what I was trying to say between this hot spot, because we got a courthouse, which obviously is lots of people, and then you got Kroger's over here, that's lots of people. And so always there's room for improvement. And then we got tax dollars that are drying up, so we're stretching them as much as possible. Then you got people who paying extra on their property taxes, and they've been calling me saying, hey, when am I getting extra? So we want to be able to showcase those things. I only brought it up because you had it in here, and I did bring it up to Finn with the $20 million, and he said his hands was tied. He couldn't do anything. And then it just, for me, it just don't feel right. I get on the elevator, 20 million upstairs, and go downstairs, and it's no help. So that's why I had asked about this, and he said, well, it's a new thing coming, and we're doing it in conjunction. And by the way, we got to put some money toward it, and we did. And so that's why I asked that question.
And for the first report we get over, we can go into more detail on exactly how those dollars are being spent. And you know, we're really, as a pass-through through to GCB and to City Gospel Mission to cover those services. So I think we can go through what that initial dollar amount through the SID covers, which is like our base outreach stream, and the additional funds that the Mental Health Board, the levy, put towards was to this chronic outreach team. So we can go in a little more detail on both.
Yeah, that would help. That would help me as far as knowing what are we paying for, because I don't want to ask you to do something down here and you saying we ain't paying for nothing down here.
Okay, so why don't we get into a rhythm then for maybe a quarterly report with some of the more in the weeds kind of information, but it's helpful to have the overview, and then we'll have a follow-up related to that. We'll help schedule it with the administrator. Okay, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. All right, our next item is the Office of Economic Inclusion and Equity, Small Business Update. So Robert Bell is here. He's the director of the office, and he's brought some individuals here to help us better understand the impacts of this program. So Robert, we are here to celebrate your work. Welcome. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Commissioners and administration, for having us today. You know, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm really excited about it. I've got people in the community coming up to me all the time being excited about it. But we're in turbulent times right now about this debate going on about inclusion in anything. But because of that, me and my colleagues in other cities have talked this out, and we've changed the way we do our talks. So I'm going to change the way I do my talks to you to show you what we're doing in the community. Because what we do is we want to focus on community on the specific goal of economic inclusion, which a lot of people don't understand, and we're finding that out. And our efforts is to ensure that all people have a fair chance to compete for Hamilton County opportunities. And the key verb is to compete. That is the key process that we do. And so, but what we have them do is we get them to register with us. We have them attend our How to Do Business with Hamilton County workshops. We send them emails, faxes. We talk to them personally. And I have to commend my small business development specialist here, Erica Thomas, and I want her to wave. She is doing a fantastic job, and I'll talk more about her when I talk about the boldness. But when they do that, they register and do those kind of things. It just helps these companies, and we help all companies who ask for our help and wanted to know more about how to do business with Hamilton County. So I stress this a lot to people, and a lot of people. And when I stress this, I'm getting a lot of calls to do presentations and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. I don't have time to do them all, but I'm doing as many as I can to get the word out. And what's happening is when I do these things, these talks, people come up to me afterwards and say, Robert, thank you for helping me better understand what the core value of inclusion is, and to help you, because you set the record straight for me. So we want to do more of that. And so we're happy that that's the outcome that comes. So today we're going to focus on the impact and the people. So I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint, because I brought along some people with me who've experienced a real impact and who have learned from us what they needed to know and have ran with it and are doing very well. Okay? Next. And I'm going to say here, my guests today are Ben Parks from Park Electric Services, James Stock, DJ X Construction, and Jeff Evans from Pepper Construction. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, next slide. Before I do that, I want to take care of some metrics for you, because one of the things we did when we looked at the numbers for 2024, this is what we found. And the experts say this is where the rubber meets the road for what we're trying to do. And the total BCC departmental expenditures was 58.1 million. MBE spend was 9.8 million. We had an overall goal of 16%, and we did that with the help of the disparity study because we have contract-specific goals for all the contracts. But we wanted to have an overall aspirational goal, was kind of like the average, because some of the contract specifics are a little below 16 and some are above 16. So the disparity study company did an analysis for us and came up with the 16% for minority spend as an aspirational general goal. And we've used that. And because of we got the recommendations in place, we have the requirements, we've got the forms, we did the training, we do a thing called PSPE, which people have said is that's your blueprint for what you're doing. And PSPE stands for policy, strategies, practices, and expectations. And we put that in everything we do, and we've made changes to all of those policies that we needed, all the stuff that we needed to do, strategies and practices and expectations. And we saw when the expectations started to change in 2020, when we did a trend chart of the spending, it started when the expectations changed. And then we added the practices and the policies, and they're all in place now. So we're excited about that. So today, we're going to focus on real people and real impact. So the first one I want you to know, when I came here in 2018, I met with the department heads to explain what we're doing, and I met with some purchasing people and said, how are you doing with small and diverse companies? And they said, well, we're not sure we know that many. And others said, well, we need to figure out how to reach them. And so we came up with the Bold Contractor Directory. And Denise knows about that real well. But it's fabulous. We're up to over 1,100 vendors. And I used to have a hard time getting vendors to even sign up when I first came here because they didn't think they had a chance. But now they're hearing people are getting work, and we had like 150 over the last 2 months that signed up. That's because they're hearing stuff. So so we started the bold list, and now the departments are calling me and saying, Robert, give me an update on the bold list. We need some more companies. We need to look, because you can sort with it by certification, by area, construction, professional services, goods and services, and it's on our website. And people are using it. Not only us, not only the departments and the contractors that work with us, but also human service groups, all the chambers. I get, and even the municipalities that get grants from us to do work in their communities are being told about the bold group. So it's really being used extensively, and we're really happy about that. The other thing besides the bold list we started to do was getting to know you initiative. And what that is, we started it during COVID and setting up meetings with purchasing people in the departments and with vendors who are interested in doing work for what that department would possibly buy. And I helped them arrange a one-on-one meeting, but virtually, and it's information only. It can't be done during a solicitation of anything, but it's working very well. And the reality of it has real impact, as you see it here. These are people that went through that signed up for the bold list, went through our how to do business with Hamilton County information, and also participated in the Getting to Know You project. And so that's a huge change for them, and they're very happy. Okay. The next project that we came up with, I was away for a little while, had some surgery, got back here in October, and I was getting these calls from contractors, and I would reach them, and they say, Robert, we want to thank you, and I'm like, for what? And they said, well, we just signed a contract for one of your big projects going on, and I said, wow. Then I found out it wasn't just one; it's 3 of them that we're currently doing now, and one's the 911 emergency center that's being built in Springdale. There's another one. The regional safety complex that's doing in I think it's Colerain Township, and that's the group of people, and that's the money that they're splitting among themselves. And then the next one is the Hillcrest Youth Campus, and that's the amount that these subcontractors are splitting, and I've never seen that before. We just have never seen that before. So I'm just amazed with that. So next. So I'm going to bring up one of some of those contractors who are going to speak to you today, and they've got some words for you. So I'm going to bring up Ben Park first.
Sounds very ominous, but we're going to let him come up anyway. They've got some words for us. I don't know what to think about that. Please introduce yourself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm not sure what to say because I don't watch this on TV, but I'm honored to be here on today, and I'm just grateful. This is really a big thing for me. This is probably the largest single contractor that I've done since I've had this company. I'm Parks Electrical Services. I'm the founder, the president. Been around since 2023 is when I started my company. And I've always wanted to be an electrical contractor with some size. My granddad wanted to be one out of Lincoln Heights. It never did happen for him. He ended up, he was told all you would do was dig ditches. And so he ended up driving a bus and another job because he and grandmother had 15 children. So one of my biggest things was because they told him he couldn't, that's what pushes me to say I can. And so, Mr. Bell has been so helpful. I don't have a problem picking up the phone and calling and say, hey, I just put in a bid on this job. I want you to know that we're in there. And I want you to know that I'm really pushing for this because this makes a big difference for me. Not only for me, but it's not just about me, it's about the employees. It's about everyone that works for me. I tell people all the time, I don't have employees, I have families. So if I have 10 employees, that's 10 families I'm responsible for. One of the things is with me being an electrical contractor, I am a part of Independent Electrical Contractors, IEC. We're open shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We pay for our apprentices to go to school for 4 years. We pay for their books and everything. All they got to do is go to work for 40 plus hours a week and go to school. And that's all they got to do for those 4 years. And so I really pride myself in the ones that have been through the program. And it's not easy. Believe it or not, even though the school is free, but it's just not easy to get them through that. But I pride myself in the different ones that some of the guys actually now have companies after they got their license and all that. But it's still good to see them because I know that, you know, part of them being in business is because they went through the training, they went through the program. But a contract like this at Hillcrest, it's phenomenal, and I'm already looking to hire. I hire from all different places. I'm church, so you know all I got to see is that right young person. I got one right now that I'm making sure he got all his paperwork because I want to hire him. I want to send him to school. He's never worked a real job, so to speak, but this is a career. This is something that he can raise a family. So these are the things that come along with us being able to stay busy and work decent sized jobs so that I can hire and help those families out. You know, especially the ones that they never thought that they would be an electrician. But this is what stays close to me. So I am so thrilled. I'm honored, and I really appreciate you all because you know being able to just come to the table is always a big thing. Because a lot of the times jobs like this, you know they'll have these outreach meetings, and they'll have these outreach meetings two or 3 weeks before the job starts. Well, that's way too late. That's really fake. To be honest, it's fake. But when you have an outreach to where you know what's going on. Robert reached out to me long before this was even going on, knowing that it was in the pipeline. So I had months to really get myself together to know, okay, I need to make sure that I'm here, and here. So again, it's so much. I'm just really appreciative, and I'm looking forward to more.
All right, thank you.
Forward to more.
And I do think before you come up, I just have a couple questions. I'm sure we all want to have a comment or question. Just very quickly, how many employees / family members do you have? Because you got a lot of family members.
I have a lot of family members. Yes, ma'am. I have it's 7 employees.
Okay.
But with me being with the IEC, which I know that you visit before, we're not union, but among us we borrow and lend our employees out. So and-so is kind of slow, and most of the large companies actually in Cincinnati are IEC, the Deniers and all the large companies. So I can borrow guys from Denier, and I can keep them, you know, we'll settle on how long. Hey, can I have them for a month? Can I have them for 2 months? So I can get these guys, and they can come work for me. And of course, I had to pay Denier for them, but that's how I can go up and down as far as employee-wise while I'm hiring, you know.
Right. Thank you for what you're doing. You're building wealth in the community, so thank you so much for what you're doing. Commissioner Summer-Odumas?
Thank you for your testimony. I can feel your gratitude and your fullness as it relates to being involved in this. And I'm thinking, I thought I saw you on the street years ago, and I said, go see Robert Bell. But I'm not going to take credit for it. I said, don't you know he has a bold list? So, but thank you for all that you do, and I know that you will do it well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese?
Yeah, thank you for your testimony, and I would say more than just a company owner, but the part where you talked about reaching back and helping others have a career. Yeah. That's how we have the dollar circulate more than one time. So just want to thank you for that and helping to build also careers that will continue to have a pipeline for us. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. And now James Stock from DJX Construction.
Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, Robert. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to stand before all of you. The great work that you do, the history that each of you possess, and have brought forth and contributed to Hamilton County and to all of us in the room. My name is James Stocks. I'm with DJX Construction. I echo Ben Parks and his comments. We are a site work and infrastructure general contractor and subcontractor. We do the work on the front end that more often than not you don't see. The sanitary sewers. I'm not going to use a vernacular that would describe the type of work that it is.
We're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But we build the infrastructure that helps connect all of us, to where we live, work, and play. And to Robert's point, the bold list, they're actually implementing it. We are on state DBE list, MBE list, EDGE list, City of Cincinnati, MSD, you name it. Those calls, that validation, that verification does not occur to the same extent as it does with the bold list. When these projects go out to bid, and again, we do site work, demolition, underground utilities, those are the first things that go out the door when that project is identified and awarded before it's made public. Those things are often already not just bid, awarded, negotiated, awarded before that project hits the public. So to Ben's point, when those outreach programs occur, that work, at least for our part, that's already gone. That's not even like, we just wasted an hour sitting there listening to all this, and that's already like, and again, the opportunity to be able to compete. Likewise, we provide a plethora of options, services, health, benefits, you name it, to all of our employees that allow them to be able to do those things and enjoy those things. We've got somebody that's laid up in the hospital right now that we're able to help contribute to his family while he's out of work. Because again, hourly workers, that if you don't work, you don't eat. So to be able to provide those benefits and opportunities to our team members because of these public projects with both the labor or wages as well as the fringe, they are a tremendous asset, not just to us, but to our team members as well. So again, thank you very much for the opportunities. We greatly appreciate not just the bold list, Robert and his team, but the commissioners, everybody on staff, for all that you do to continue to help these programs continue to thrive.
Thank you. Thank you for participating in those programs. Absolutely. 2 quick questions. How many employees do you have?
At the moment, 16. This is the slower time of the year with the weather. Okay.
And then what county projects have you worked on?
So as you saw on the screen, Hamilton County, Hillcrest, as well as 911.
Okay.
And prior to that was the off of, oh goodness, this was a couple years ago. So both Hamilton County projects, city projects,
okay,
you name it, within a 2-hour radius here.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Summer-Dumas.
Great. Thank you for your testimony. And I remember coming here in 2019. I was demanding to sit in when they had the bids for different projects. And I said, well, if I sit in, I'm going to make sure this is right and everybody gets included. But I didn't realize, like Ben was also saying, some of the decisions have possibly already been made. So by the time I sit in, it was not worth it. But to see you stand there and to see Mr. Parks stand there is just a dream come true. I'm going to talk more about Robert in a minute, but this is what he's been working on, and this is what I came in on in 19, that we do better, and we are doing better. So thank you so much.
Commissioner Reese.
Thank you for your testimony, and for people that are watching, I think it's very important. You, both of you named some components that I think is very important. Number one, you are paying employees, and we are certainly for creating jobs. Number two, you're also allowing employees to have a career set, so you've got benefits and those kind of things. The other thing, which I'll talk more on when Robert's done, but I think it's very important that you just indicated and you named 5 or 6 certifications that you got to go through. And those certifications, as someone like myself growing up in a small family-owned, Black-owned business, you don't have the staff to just sit there and do paperwork all day. And a lot of times I met a lady, because I've been working on this since I was at city council and then at the state and now here, it costs money to have someone to sit there and certify and certify. A lady had 30 certifications and not one contract. And so you named something important, that you went from certifications to meeting Mr. Robert Bell and a bold list that actually resulted in contracts. The other thing that you indicate, I think is very important, is that you also are a taxpayer. And one of the things I think is missing in this whole debate or that's going on is that we have unfortunately, historically, have had taxation without participation. And at the county, we make our money off of sales tax. So if you buy some bubble gum, you are contributing. We make our money off of property tax if you are a homeowner or you own a building as a business or a nonprofit, you pay into the tax system. And we make our money off of hotel motel tax. If you stay in one of the hotels or throughout the county, we make some money off of that as well. And so we collect all these diverse dollars. But unfortunately, for too long, we've been in existence for 234 plus years now. It's been some taxation without the right to compete for participation. And that's wrong. And so to even have this program, it required to go through 1,000 hoops, because you can't just be a business owner. You got to certify, bonify, you got to do all that. And then you say, now I hopefully can bid on the project. And then we have to have all this, Robert had to go through all of this. I mean, I'd have been through so many CROSA studies in my career, it's unbelievable. And that is only for 5 years, and then you got to do it all again. It's the only group of people that have to be certified, except on tax day, we're equal. They fine you. Taxes getting ready to be due, right? They don't say, are you certified? Are you bona fide? Or, wait, but you minority. We only want you to pay 15% of what you should be paying, right? They don't do that. You're equal now. So we're equal on tax day and unequal every other day. And that's what has been my fight and my challenge for so long. And so I just want people watching to understand what you have to overcome to even get a chance to bid. First, you got to find out about it. Then you got to go get certified. And those certifications is ongoing. And then you pray and hope you can bid on it. And then once you bid on it, now you got to do the job. So it's just a lot of steps that people have to take. And so I just wanted to thank you, all of you that are part of this, and you got to have a champion like a Robert Bell who says, I'm going to stay on it, because it can't just be happy hours and meet and greets. Meeting and greeting and you ain't getting no chance to get no contract. You lose business as a small business owner. So thank you very much for your testimony and what you said about Robert and the bold list, and appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Phew. One of the things, we can go next. The next project I want to talk about is called the Mentorship Partnership Initiative. And I come up with these ideas. My background is federal procurement. Working with the HUD and the Housing Authority. And I spent 7 years almost 8 years doing that before I came here. And what I learned is that there's a lot of contractors, small minority and women-owned businesses. There are some that are doing very well in the work I did with HUD and the Housing Authority. And there was a common thing about them that were doing well. They had alliances or partnerships. So I called up Majid from Triton Services and told him, I said, Majid, we really appreciate it. You're doing a lot of work for us, and that's good, and it's good work. He said, but I said, I'm really trying to get more width, to widen the net with this thing. And I told him about my idea, and he said, well, can I help you? And that's all he had to say. So we got started with that last year, and we got started. And the Mentorship Partnership Program, it really starts by, we set up a meeting. I first asked the prime, what do they do most of their subcontracting? What type of subcontracting do they do a lot? And I get a list, then I go to the bold list, and I sort for that. And then I pick 8 to 10 vendors out of that list to come to a meeting with the prime. Now, I tell the prime before the meeting that I really need him to be serious and to look at maybe 3 to 5 of these 8 to 10 companies that he's going to take on some more work with. He's going to take a look at, spend the time to get to know them, to vet them, and I want them to do 1 of 3 things with the ones they pick. either some continued support of what they're doing, giving them guidance and stuff, or even mentoring them, or subcontracting. And the primes that agree to do that, I have them. Well, I've already done 2 sessions, and I'm in the process of doing 2 more. And the people in the sessions, go to the next one. And the people and the vendors in the session tell me, Robert, even though they know they are not going to get picked because I tell them that, but they in the session they say, Robert, we never got a chance to to talk to these primes like this, and the primes say we didn't know this was out here, a lot of them, okay. So, but what I did was I asked the primes later, and we have a representative here who's going to talk about that. I asked the primes later, have you ever done this kind of thing before? You know what they said? Nobody ever asked us. And so, I'm asking everybody now. Because, if that's all we have to do is ask, and not everybody's going to want to do it. I know that. But I've been able to pick some good people who are willing to do it. And I want to introduce one of those good people, Jeff Evans from Pepper Construction.
Welcome.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, commissioners and staff, and thank you for allowing me to speak here. Robert and I met at Alloy Development in the summer of 23. It was about 100 degrees.
Yeah, I know it was hot.
Him and I were looking for just a water or a Coke instead of an IPA beer that sits heavy when it's that hot. We started talking, and one of the things about Pepper Construction, we were founded up in Chicago in around 1912, and we have since grown in the Midwest. We are now in Cincinnati. We've been here for 17 years. We do about $200 million worth of work here in the Cincinnati area. One of the things that we noticed as Pepper Construction is the sense of community and how strong community is. 3 years ago, we moved into our new office in Lockland. We took over the old Stearns and Foster building because we had that sense of community of helping economic disadvantaged community to get a little kickstart. When I met Robert, we talked about 2 polling needs. Robert was trying to get these smaller subcontractors involved with primes. I was a prime that understands that we are an industry that is grossly underrepresented by minorities and also women. Recently, our president owner up in Chicago had a town hall meeting. As things are pulling back from DEI, we're forging forward. We're committed to it. We have a staff involved that is dedicated to DEI initiatives up in Chicago. So I'm talking to Robert. Robert talked about this BOLD initiative, which was wonderful. We didn't know where to look. Now that you have the BOLD set up, we know where we can find minority contractors to help us. We understand one true truth is that the more diversified we are on our projects, the more success we have on our projects. There are companies here, we do public, we do private work. There are companies here in the private sector, Fifth Third, Procter & Gamble, UC Health, that have put 25%, far above the EDGE requirements that come out of the state of Ohio. That is only at 5 to 10%. But companies like P&G, companies like UC, and you look at Fifth Third, their customer base is minority driven also. So why wouldn't they have the built world to include MBEs and WBEs? So the mentorship program we talked about it. And we talked about it. Yep. And then we talked about it. But finally it came to fruition. About a month ago, we were introduced to 9 or 10 subcontractors. 2 of which are here, James and Ben. These subcontractors, you guys are in a better place. You're up and operating, but I'm sure that you looked around the room and saw that there are similar companies out there that haven't been able to get that kickstart. And a lot of it depends on people like us and companies like us. We've had 3 or 4 of the people reach out to us. from that meeting. And it's one thing to talk, talk, and meet on Teams or whatever, but this was in person. And with the help of the Urban League and meeting at their facility and having that small business component to their operations, we got to meet some great small business. We're talking 5, 6 person businesses, families that have no idea of how to navigate and to get work from primes such as us. We have a pre-qualification process that we are engaged with them and helping them fill out those forms and to be pre-qualified with our company. There is assistance with bid instructions and how to submit those bids. They don't know how to do this because they're so small and they're just starting their businesses. We're there to act as that resource and to provide valuable feedback when they do a bid submittal, whether they win or lose, to supply that feedback and to see what the best practices are that other companies that may be more successful are employing into their bid process. And we can help them bridge that gap. You mentioned Triton Services, where I think we're the second. But it's super important for those people to meet us face to face. We believe in community. We believe in the diversified built world. And we will continue to help these smaller companies and help them catapult them so that it's not just us that they are seeking to do work with, but it's the Messers, the Skanskas, and much more of the larger companies out there to help them have successful bids. So we take the next step. We hope that to engage with more of the people that were at that meeting today. I believe that we're looking at possibly doing another one, at least, or have that conversation quarterly. But we're here because we're part of this community. We believe in it. And we're here to help as much as possible to uplift that.
Thank you. It's clear that you have a commitment for the work that you're doing. So thank you for being here and sharing the partnership, because really, as you have all said, it's all about the partnerships. And thank you, Robert, for helping to expand these conversations so that we can be true to our word here about trying to make sure everybody feels welcome to participate in all the opportunities in the county. And it takes these smaller conversations to get to the larger picture. So thank you for doing this work. Commissioner Summer Dumas.
I'm just overwhelmed today in the presentation. Thank you so much for what you do. You don't have the fear that most companies have, and they don't have to have it. But you are squashing that fear for those that are listening and are that find out what you're doing. God bless you, because you get it. It's awesome. So continue to forge forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reese.
Yeah, I just want to concur. I want to thank you for the explanation that you just gave. And, you know, we call the program bold and a bold list, but what you just did and what you just said is bold. You always know who's with you when stuff is easy, when it's popular, when it's a trend. And I think you just really broke down the economics of why economically it matters, how it helps people make money, how it helps majority companies as well to continue to make money. And you just laid out why it is good business. A lot of times people look at it as a social program. This is not the nonprofit program. This is the for-profit program, the commerce. But the statement and the explanation and the breakdown that you made in the times that we are living, I think is just bold and remarkable. And I want to commend you that it's not a check mark, it's not a trendy thing, it's good business. And I appreciate you standing up, standing tall, and working with the businesses and working with Robert on this. This is what a real partnership is.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whoa, I get a little emotional about this stuff. And you know, I'm frequently asked to do podcasts now, lead discussions and talks in the community about our accomplishments. And I always leave them with this one thought, that me and myself and others in the field will never waver in our commitment to help everyone learn to compete fairly and effectively, and will never waver in our conviction that we are doing the right thing. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, very helpful. I mean, I'm a little overwhelmed myself, very helpful. And thank you to the team here that I know helps get this to the finish line. So thanks for everything, Robert.
So I have
Yeah.
were you gonna make?
Yep.
Okay. But when you talked about inclusion at the beginning, you're not asking for a better chance or a greater chance for people who have abilities, great abilities. You're asking for, as you said, a fair chance. And so and when you came up with the bold list, that was bold to come up with a name like that. It was a great name. It fits so perfectly. And I remember, and I have to digress, that when I came in 19, you told me what your vision was. And I said, well, who's working with you? And you were the only one. You were the only one doing it, the Lone Ranger. And I want to acknowledge the support of the administrator, Jeff, to allow you to flow and to go and to meet and greet people and build it up. So certainly want to acknowledge his support. But I said, you think you're going to do all of this? And he said, yeah, I'm determined. And then you added on staff. You have great staff, so just appreciate you're setting the guidelines for the future of Hamilton County for sure. So I'm looking at that crown on your head. Yeah. But thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Reese.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when I got elected and I came in, and we were getting the reports, and I appreciate you giving a report of where we were. And in the fourth quarter report it had, we only had spent $1,400 with all minority groups, no matter who you were. And I think we had spent, I don't know, 16 out of 16 or $20 million. And I said, wait a minute, this is not acceptable. And we got a chance to meet, and all the steps, you said we've got to go through these steps. And we're blessed to have you, Robert Bell. But we also have to have a board that's going to back you. And our board said, we're going to be bold and we're going to back you. And you said, let me get to work, because this is not just a job. You have had a stellar career, but you said, this is my calling. And you went to work, and all the steps that had to be taken, I don't want to take this lightly. I want to tell people it's inexcusable that we're spending $1,400. We collect taxes from everybody. And on tax day, which is coming up, somehow, some way, in America, they say we equal on that day. Tax day, you're equal. Every other day, we unequal. And I'm not going to accept that. And so you went to work, you had to do a Croson study. And we always got to study that we exist. Then you have to do the study, then you had to have all these groups had to be. Now, while we're doing all this, every week we voting on contracts. We didn't stop voting. Contracts are being voted on, and groups of people have not been included because the law requires us to go through all these steps. You said, well, let's go. So we went through the steps, we came, you did it, and we were approved. You came with a program. Then you had to go to the prosecutor's office, not the same prosecutor we got now, and we had to make sure this stuff can hold up in court. That's hard. Now, while this is going on, I want the people to know, every week we voting on contracts, every single week. It didn't stop. We didn't say we got to wait for the process before we keep voting. So people were X'd out, but you kept working. And then we came back and we had a Black Business Day. I said, let's have Black Business Day. We never had one. They ain't been in this building before. And we had it down the hall, and you and Jeff, our administration, to say we're serious about including you having an equal chance to compete. We had it. It was packed. It was wonderful. In that midst, you kept working. And now we're at a point where we have a program, we have some results, and we're at a critical moment in history. And I'm here to tell you that we cannot have taxation, meaning everybody got to pay taxes, but everybody cannot participate. And even for some who might look at it and say, oh man, they getting some, we talking about 15% out of 100%. I want people to understand that. 15% out of 100%. And you got to compete for the 15%. And you put every minority you can think of in 15%, which is the baby pool. And so I just think that's way more than, I mean, really, the other side should say it ain't fair. I mean, we do it, you know, we only talking about 15%. And so I want to say that, Robert, under your leadership, and then I want to thank Jeff for understanding that our county, we mean business, and Jeff said, let's do it. And we got not just construction, we talked about that today, but, you know, we couldn't even sell potato chips and pretzels. So now we've got, you know, little, I mean, not little, but other contracts. We couldn't even send out press releases. We wasn't getting the contracts on press releases. Now we got some of those contracts. So there's so many things that you have impacted because we're looking at every single layer. And then, by the way, Robert, we talking about subcontract. Ain't even the main contract. It's the sub. And so I want people who are watching to understand how difficult and how hard it is. But I also want everyone to know that everyone who pays taxes in Hamilton County should have an equal shot. Should have an equal shot at the American dream. And so I just want to thank you, but there's so many layers because for 234 years we've been collecting taxes and we've been Xing people out. And so it's hard to take on 234 years. So I want to commend you. There's so many other contracts that we hear about. You come in, you say, let's break up a bigger contract, make it smaller so more people can participate. Everything from having to be insured. It's not easy doing business with the county. Our civil lawyer is the prosecutor's office, so you know they have to go through, and it's not the most easy thing to do. And then the other thing I want to say that you put forward is something that's big to me. When you're a small business, you can't wait 180, 200 days to be paid. You're going out of business because you don't have that cash flow. And when I was at the city, they still have it in. That was one of the biggest things I ever did was prompt pay law. Now, we can't create the law, but we create a policy of prompt pay so that the small business can still compete. You can't compete if you got to wait 180 days. And so you thought of all these different things. You brought them forward. We got a solid program, and we just got this program after all this stuff we had to do. And I want to see the program keep going to fruition. And I wanted to just tell you we support you and we thank you for all that you do, Robert. And I do want to indicate that the county has been doing more because I've been seeing some of these other programs. But the county has been a leader right now in this space of making sure that everybody has an equal shot. And I just want to, we're not just talking, we're not just doing receptions and certificates. We actually have some contracts, and I just want to thank you. We couldn't have done it without you, Robert Bell.
Thank you.
Since we've talked a little bit about the history and the work as it's progressed, I would be remiss not to shout out Todd Portune, who had a big part to play in establishing the office to begin with, and then Victoria Parks, who had the racism as a public health crisis, and the disparity study was, we added that into that proclamation. So a lot of folks have helped to get us to where we are, but it is something to celebrate for sure. So thanks for all the work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our last presentation is related to the TLRC. This is the Children's Services Levy Midpoint Report. Lisa Webb is going to present, obviously, the Assistant County Administrator. I know that Gwen McFarland is here. She is the chair of the TLRC. Thank you, Gwen, for being here and for your work. Jenny O'Donnell is here. She is the chair of the subcommittee for Children's Services. Thank you, Jenny, Dr. O'Donnell, for being here. And also Michael Patton is here, the director of JFS, with his team. Thank you all for being here. And so, Lisa, we will have you lead it off.
Thank you, Commissioner. You took care of all of my introductions.
There we go. Very good.
This is going to be a little different than our typical midterm reports. There's a reason and background for it, so bear with me on the flow here. I'm going to just give a general introduction for the Children's Services Levy and the midterm report. Then we're going to actually turn it over to Michael Patton to give us an update on Children's Services and JFS. Dr. Jenny O'Donnell will give her report on the TLRC's midpoint recommendation, and then we'll go from there with time for questions from all of you commissioners. So thank you very much. I know Michael has a slide. I'm just going to give it, or a presentation for you. I'm just going to give a very general introduction. The Children's Services Levy is obviously, it's a 5-year levy from Hamilton County, voted on by Hamilton County voters. It's roughly $81 million in property tax levies per year. The current term of the levy is from 2022 till 2026. This is the midpoint review. This is a typical review given by the Tax Levy Review Committee. They look at levies midway through the 5-year cycle to check in on those levies, see if there's anything important that they want to make sure the commissioners are aware of, and present those reports. We have several other reports we're taking on this year. Children's Services in particular was really a levy review for 2024. We just had a couple setbacks in terms of waiting to make sure we were updated with other reports that were coming through that interacted with JFS and their children's services, examples being the COHERE report internally, as well as the Hayes Cincinnati report, to make sure that the TLRC's report could provide that additional value and not be done prior to that information being part of the context. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the Job and Family Services Director, Michael Patton, to give an update on the levy overall, and then, as I said, Dr. Jenny O'Donnell for the TLRC's report specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I want to provide you an update on the Children's Services Levy. Also, I have my team here, John Nelson and Margie Weaver, with me as well. They can answer any questions that may come up as well. But wanted to get started, give you a quick update. What I want to talk about today are some trends related to what we're seeing in children's services. The top two, I think, that are relevant for this conversation have to do with our staffing and our workforce trends, as well as some key drivers for what we're seeing as it relates to levy expenditures between now and the end of the levy cycle. So the good news is that we're seeing a really good improvement in the number of staff that are applying for positions in child welfare that are coming through the pipeline. So we're really excited about that. We'll talk a little bit about that. I have a slide to talk a little bit more about that in a couple of moments here. The caseloads still remain high. Obviously, as you get new staff who start in a position, we have to get them trained, up to speed, prepared to be able to take the caseloads. And so although the caseloads remain high, those are coming down. So I have a slide that'll talk a little bit more about that. The other really key message that I want to communicate to the public and also to the board, and we've had some conversations as well previously, is about the cost of care. This is a national and a state trend related to the cost of children in care in the custody of Job and Family Services. And so as we went through 2024 and we talked to our community providers and talked to our customers, we continued to see that there was a significant cost associated with caring for children that we have in our custody. The other thing that is driving that cost of care is that there are an increase in the number of children that we are seeing with acute behavioral needs. And there was also a shortage of available caregivers locally. So there is some associated cost as we look for placements for children who have very unique needs and behavioral needs that require special attention. When we have to move those families and those children out of state, there's some additional costs associated with that. So again, not a local issue, a state and a national issue where we're seeing a shortage in available trained providers to take care of children with unique needs, which also impacts the cost of care there. We also, through the help of the board and the union negotiations, were able to, I believe, level set and right set wages for our staff. which is I think contributing to the fact that we're seeing a part of the reason we're seeing an increase in number of clients and staff that are coming to work for Job and Family Services. The number of people that are coming to work for Job and Family Services. And the budget also that I will talk about includes support for Hillcrest as well. So just a quick slide here to kind of give you a picture of what we're looking at as far as our workforce is concerned. When I was hired, I did a couple of presentations and talked about workforce in children's services, specifically hovering around 40%, which was a crisis really at the time that we continued to work on over the last 3 years or so. And so this particular chart shows from January of 2024 through a projected overall improvement, which is projected through May. And again, that I want to add a caveat to that. As we bring staff on board and trainees on board, that projection assumes that those same staff will stay in that position, pass probation, get a caseload, et cetera. So as you can see, from January 2024, what we're projecting through May of 2025 is a 20% reduction in the vacancy rate in our assessment department, a 34% reduction in the vacancy rate for our ongoing department, 13% reduction in permanency, and permanency typically stays pretty stable. And then our intake department, a whopping 38% reduction in our vacancy rate. And then the graph below just really shows you that in an illustrated format between January of 2024 and May of 2025. And you can see that reduction coming down. So really excited about the fact that we are able to bring on board staff that we believe will reduce caseloads, increase safety for children, and to make sure that we're meeting the goals and expectations that we have from the state and federal government. Again, some of the things that I think that contributed to that, I want to give a lot of credit to our children's services staff, our HR department, our communications department, working really hard to look at different platforms to advertise the availability of those positions. We did revamped our training, provided walkthrough tours for people that were interested in coming to work for us so that they could see visually what the work looked like in advance of that. Doing more frequent hiring processes where we were offering positions on the spot for interviews. So we've done a variety of things that I think have contributed to the success that are reflected on this chart. This slide talks about caseload averages. So if you look at the top slide, you're going to look at what the Council on Accreditation recommends for caseloads for assessment on the top. The bottom graph shows what the Council on Accreditation recommends for a caseload for our ongoing departments. Again, these are projections through July of 2025 based on the current staffing that we have in the pipeline. Again, for our assessment caseload, back in July, we were around 39. That is significantly higher than what we would like. The Council on Accreditation caseload is 12. But through July, given the trending that we're seeing with new employees starting, that number is trending down, and we are hopeful that by July of 2025, we can get down to 22 cases. Still work to do, but certainly a lot lower than 39. And then for our ongoing caseloads over time, we are projecting that, again, all things remaining equal, staff pass probation and we're able to get through training, that by July of 2025, we will be close to or at what the caseload expectations would be in our ongoing department. So here are really the two things I wanted to talk about, staffing as well as current trends related to our cost of care. Some of you may have seen this previously, but really what this slide reflects is a trend that shows the increased cost of care for levels of care for children in our custody. So the column to the far left, LOC, represents level of care. And you can see that there has been a significant increase in the cost of care across the board, 51% in foster care. Group home level of care has increased 136%. and this is based on the daily per diem, so I want to point that out as well. Independent living cost up 181%, residential treatment up 75%, and the overall average for all of those levels of care is around 100%. And again, I just want to point out too that what has driven a lot of this is the needs of the kids that are in care, the acute needs of the kids that are in care, the economics of healthcare, the cost of healthcare, the fact that we're seeing kids that require a lot more intervention, day-to-day intervention, 24-hour care. We've also, as a part of that process of making sure that we wanted to focus on local providers and having availability for local providers, early on in 2022, after I started, we looked at the contracts that we had with our local foster care networks, looked at increasing their ability to keep and retain staff. Obviously, if we want to be able to keep kids local and to get the services that they need, we had conversations with our providers and needed to address that, so we gave some increases there, 12% increases for their contracts across the board. And then the following year, I think 6%. We expect that to level off. We've done that. We've right-sized them. And so we're going to move back to our traditional contract negotiations as we move forward with our providers, looking at more traditional increases annually around 3 or 4%. But that'll be a part of our negotiation going forward. But the trend line you can see also indicates that over that time frame, for each one of those particular levels of care, we have seen significant increases in the cost of care for children. This slide reflects the total dollars spent through 2024. Really the important, I think, the one that I want to point out is the top graphic there, showing that in 2024, we spent $72 million in terms of placement for children through Job and Family Services and all of the costs associated with the operation of the Children's Services Division. And you can see the significant increase compared to the prior year of $62 million. So almost a $10 million increase total over that time period. So the question, I think we beg the question, what are the drivers of that? Where are the areas in which we're seeing that expense grow? And so this graph really shows that and illustrates that, I think, more clearly. Board and housing at the bottom there for children in care. We are budgeting $77 million there. Payroll administration, kinship support, we are budgeting $46 million. Juvenile court, we're working with juvenile court on Hillcrest and some other areas that we have budgeted for the next 2 years that we are assuming come to pass. So we are budgeting there. Direct support for medical rent utilities for transition age youth, children in care, vouchers that come from families who need those services. So prevention grants that we issued a couple years ago are driving that as well. So just wanted to kind of give you a graph that shows where those costs are, the big bucket items where we need to focus in the next two years and see where those numbers end up for 2026. And finally, this chart reflects the public PCG's projections based on the last levy cycle of where the balance, they anticipated the balance might be. The green line is PCG's projections through 2026 at $24,800,000. Our current projections based on the most recent information we have and the cost that we have budgeted for 2025 through 2026 shows our balance being somewhere around $2,851,000, significantly below the public PCG's projections through that time period. And the point that I want to make is that the cost is driven by the increased cost of care for children that are coming in. We're not seeing an increase necessarily in the number of children that are coming in. There's been a slight increase, but not enough to explain the cost jump that you see in these figures here. And so that concludes my presentation. Open any questions, and I also happy to answer those for you.
Why don't, let's get through the presentation.
Sure, we can do that.
So I think Dr. O'Donnell is next.
Thank you.
Hello, commissioners. So I'm Dr. Jenny O'Donnell. I'm a taxpayer in Hamilton County and a volunteer on the Tax Levy Review Committee. I've been on it for several years, and this year I had the great pleasure of serving as the chair of this subcommittee with Mark Quarry and our leader, Gwen McFarland, and of course the help of Lisa Webb. We met several times with the staff at JFS, excellent staff, amazingly helpful, lots of information. Even today, as I came busting in late, I said, oh, the slides, and they showed me the slides in the back of the room. I mean, that's the level of cooperation that we've had this whole time. Our TLRC recommendation is very brief this year. This is a midterm review. So we didn't have the consultants and all the deep dive. We have the information from JFS. And while we're thrilled to see how they have been carrying out the recommendations that the TLRC made to your body in 2021, we gave them some strong recommendations. Get that staff up, get those rates down, the wait list rates, things like that. We want to see staff retention. We want to see a broader range of services available for your staff to help these kids in transition. We asked for all that. We've seen it. We've seen them deliver that. And of course, that's costing money now. So we have come back now as the TLRC to recommend really one big thing, and that's to initiate the full review process immediately. Those numbers that we just showed, that were just showed on the board, show that there's been this real increase in the hosting services, the housing services of these kids, and what we're concerned about now is how quickly are those numbers going to continue to increase, which would drive us down past our fund balance limit, if you will. And the one piece that we are very sensitive to as the TLRC is that these services are mandated. This is not, there's no ambiguity about whether we can provide these services or not. So if they are not being paid for from the Children's Services Levy, they're going to come out of the general fund, or the county's going to be breaking the law. So we're very sensitive to that. So what we're asking for is an initiation of the full levy review process. I will say there's one thing that makes my heart really afraid is that there are a few services that the Children's Services Levy is now paying for that are excellent services, but they're not mandated services. And our real fear is that if we, don't get a handle on these numbers right away and really understand what's going on, of course, the first thing we would have to recommend is to cut the non-mandated services. So that's our report. We're proud of what JFS has been doing. I will say the TLRC was quite impressed. So I want you all to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to you and the volunteer service of all the other members of the TLRC. It's a big lift. And it's a lot of work, so thank you for your work on it.
Thank you. It is a huge lift, and I am thankful every day for the current 8 members, many of which have been serving for well beyond 10 years in their capacity, including Gwen, who was here before I was, on the Tax Levy Committee and remains in the Tax Levy Committee, even though she's not doing all the other stuff out there as much anymore. We're keeping her here. What does this mean in terms of a timeline? Chrissy, can you pull up just that last slide really quickly? We have a very general timeline for the TLRC for this year. As I mentioned, the Tax Levy Committee is still conducting midpoint reviews for the 2025 process on indigent care, mental health, senior services, and the annual update on the DDS levy balance right now. Our hope is that we'll be able to conclude those by the end of May and get those reports to the commissioners early this summer, and then have the capacity to move into a longer, more detailed review with the consultants for the Children's Services Levy. The recommendation is looking at getting started on that review this summer. Typically, the TLRC reviews for the November ballot don't really kick off until the very beginning of January. It's about a 6-month TLRC process. They then give their recommendations to the commissioners around 4th of July, end of July, very early June, or July, I'm sorry. And then the commissioners have the month of July for public hearings, public discussion, meetings, and determinations on that levy balance by the state deadline vote of usually typically the very first week of August. What this would do is extend that deadline so that the consultants would be engaged in the summer and spend summer through winter working on developing their reports, giving them a bit longer time to really dig into what's going on within children's services, both in Hamilton County, in the state, and nationally. A goal being to then, in January of 2026, January through March, have additional tax levy committee meetings to discuss the levy, the consultants' report, their recommendations, hold public hearings, and then finalize the report and get that report to the commissioners by April. So the commissioners will have late spring and into summer to do their own analysis and detail on the report and the findings within it. We also have the potential, by starting this report earlier, to use those initial consultant recommendations as a tool for the 2026 budget.
Will you remind us about the cycle of the levies? What's on this year, what's on next year?
Yeah, so this year there are no levies on the ballot for November. It's a big year for the midpoints, as I mentioned before, but there are no levies on the ballot. Next year is the Children's Services Levy for consideration on the ballot. There are not any others in 26. 2027 is the other big year. Those midpoints that I just mentioned are up for full review. That's indigent care, mental health, and seniors.
Okay, so this one is slated to be considered for next year anyway. You're just getting us going sooner than later.
Exactly. It's ramping up the process a little bit and giving time for a more extensive review.
Okay, got it. All right. Is that the end of your presentation?
That is it.
All right.
Good for questions.
I've got a couple questions, and then we'll open it up, of course. So, Michael, as I look at the chart, and we've been evaluating this, from where I sit, 9 years, trying to figure out the sweet spot for children's services, and also trying to figure out ways to provide adequate services. By that I mean staffing, and paying staff a good wage, retaining, recruiting folks, but also providing the services that are so necessary for the kids. But in that work, we talked about prevention a number of years ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. And we're hopeful that if we could do some prevention work and go in and stabilize families before the kids were removed, if the kids could be safely left at home, that we anticipated that would not only be good for the families, but also save money. So tell me where we are with that and whether or not that has proven out.
Sure. We were able to award almost $4 million in prevention grants a couple of years ago to, I believe, 14 different organizations to answer that particular question. We don't have the data yet on that. They were getting up and running and ramped up, I believe, at the end of last year. So I think most of them are under contract and are beginning to do the work of prevention in the community. As I mentioned to you guys before, one of the things too that I was interested in was to make sure that we were acknowledging and looking for organizations, smaller organizations that might be doing good work in the community. So the initial the initial contracts were for $200,000 or less over a 2-year period. And so we continue to look at that through our contracting department. Again, we spent almost $4 million on those contracts over I think 13 or 14 different vendors. And so we're going to make an analysis of the impact of that. And there were other organizations that we were in constant contact with, hoping that we would be in a position to fund maybe on a larger scale some prevention work. All of that time sort of looking and monitoring what our internal mandated cost of care look like. And so as we're having these conversations, the data started to come back that the expenditures are happening a lot more quickly than I had anticipated. So although the good intention was to move forward with prevention, and to try to get that in place. We did do a little bit of that. We wanted to expand it a little bit more. I think in December, you guys remember I presented to you an idea of using some money on prevention as well going into this year. But as we started to look at the data, we sort of recalibrated on that front to really make sure we were focusing on staff and meeting mandates. So we did some prevention and did not do the sort of second phase that we were hoping we would be able to do.
Yeah, and I can see by the numbers that to do anything outside of the mandated services is at this moment challenging.
Absolutely.
Because of the chart, I'm looking at the chart, the bar chart that you provided. I mean, it's astounding. The increase to provide, particularly the residential services. I mean, we've been seeing this and we've been noting it every week. We get these
the contracts, correct.
And they're very high dollar amounts. We're spending millions and millions every week. I mean, how do you sustain that? And I know we've talked offline about having conversations with these providers. Look, we want everybody to make a good wage, but we have this budget that we're operating with, and so it really puts a strain then on the prevention piece, which in the end, I believe, and I think you believe, would save us money.
I do.
And be a better strategy than just a reactive strategy to kids that need to then come into care through the county. There's just a better way to get to that, but I understand the challenge of investing in that versus, because you don't know what the fruits of that will be, because you're not there yet. Right. And then having to provide a lot more by way of financing for what we're mandated to do. So I understand the conundrum. I just wanted to peel back a little bit how far along we were with the prevention work and whether or not you had seen any, and I hate to be talking about finances, but honestly, that's what we're talking about here, so that we can continue to provide these services. So whether or not there were any cost savings, and the answer to that is we don't know yet.
We don't know yet. We are going to examine that as a part of our internal work, obviously, as we began to see the end of the 2024 expenses become more clear, and we're going to make sure we're monitoring that on a quarterly basis from now until the end, so that we can understand the impact of those expenses. But certainly, from a prevention standpoint, I want to know how those investments worked. We did say that it's an investment that we wanted to begin to take advantage of. We felt like we were in a position to do that. We wanted to start with the smaller organizations, and we were able to do that. So we'll monitor that to see what kind of impact they're having for the families that they're serving and the children that they're serving.
Right. That'll obviously play out in the number of kids that come into care.
Absolutely.
That's where that number will show up, I guess. So I'll be interested to track that as you are tracking it. Just a couple of other things. We talked about wages. We always talk about wages when it comes to JFS. One of the first charts you showed, thank goodness, we're getting closer to what a reasonable caseload looks like. And that's great because that serves these kids even better. And I'm very, it warms my heart to know that we're doing better there. Does that also translate into less turnover?
I hope so. Absolutely. We think that the lower the caseload, the more staff are able to meet the expectations that they have on a day-to-day basis to see families, conduct investigations, make good decisions for children and family in their care. And so when caseworkers that have a large caseload are confronted with that on a day-to-day basis, they feel it and they know it. And we're saying, hey, we need to make the visits. We need to document everything. We need to make sure we're making good clinical decisions. And so as my hope is that as we get to a lower caseload, all of the staff feel like they are able to meet the demands of the job in a way that keeps kids safe.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like it's the same conversation we just had, as you're not really sure yet,
right?
Because it's fairly new. The new facility maybe will help with that a little bit by way of morale and retention. But I'll be interested to see how, again, another cost saving if we aren't having that kind of turnover that we used to have,
Absolutely.
Like leaving every year. It's extremely expensive and terrible for kids.
Absolutely.
Right? So, okay, with something else to track though, where I feel like we're waiting for these trends to hit. And then lastly, we're talking about the balance. We had a very high balance not so long ago, and we were hopeful that we could remain in that space for a little bit longer to, as has been indicated, fund some of these more preventative services, things that aren't necessarily mandated, but we know helps the kids, and we know kind of helps the system and provide cost savings in the long term. I feel like that we fell off a cliff here.
We did.
Within the last couple of years, and I can see where it's going by way of the providers and some salary. In some ways, we did it to ourselves, but I think we needed to make sure kids are safe in this community. So it's a troubling trend. So I appreciate the information from all of you. It's stressful to read through this report, but thank you for the work. And I am obviously open to this idea that we get to this conversation earlier than later, because that line indicates that the cliff is continuing to fall here, and we're getting there quickly. So appreciate the alert here and bringing it to our attention. Commissioner Summer-Dumas.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation and the other presentations also. The statistics were right on. I mean, to see a clear picture of where we're going. So I thank everybody who put all that together. I'm also so excited about the fact that not too long ago, there were talks about taking some money out of the children's levy and use for other things, but I just knew that, I'm not gonna say I knew the trend, but I knew that our babies would need as much as we could give them. And so when you look at the balance of 2.8, that's a little scary, as was mentioned earlier. I was just wondering about our vendors, the number of vendors reducing. I know they're increasing for the cost, but do you still have about the same amount of vendors for these services?
I'm going to ask John to speak on that, our contracting director, or assistant director, should I say.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the vendors are about the same amount. We are, with the challenge that we're facing is that we trying to get as many vendors into our network as possible. And so those network contracts are ones that you see typically in the beginning of the year. You'll see the really high dollar amounts. And the goal is to have those rates negotiated for the entire period of the year. And even sometimes we'll even do renewal rates as well that will negotiate for multiple years as well. And that's a way to keep the costs low. So what we're seeing, a little bit of a troubling trend, is we're seeing, there's not a lack of providers. The lack of providers that are becoming network providers are kind of going down. And this is, again, a state trend, so much so that the state ODJFS is looking into this as well. And we've filled out some information around that on a survey for them. But the reason for that is that they know there's a lack of placement options. And so typically when a agency like ours is desperate and we can't place a child anywhere, then we resort to a single source contract. And in a single source contract, a placement agency is able to negotiate a better rate than if they were part of the network contract negotiations. So we find that some of our previously located placement agencies are kind of backing out of that network and are hoping to maybe come around when there's a need and pick up those sole source contracts when they can. And of course, not all sole source contracts are a result of that. Some of them are based purely on needs of children, where our network is just not able to deliver the needs that the children might have. And at that point in time, the sole source contracts do become necessary to go after. But then we're also seeing one of those number games as well that some of them might be playing. So,
okay, thank you. I appreciate that. One of the reasons I brought it up is I researched my meeting for Thursday. There's an entity, an agency, UMHC, I think is the name of it. It's a new agency, and it has 4 different areas we have to vote on. They're providing 4 different services. And I was saying, and they're not local, as far as I could tell. And I was just wondering, why are we having this? And I'll get the information. I'll just bring it up now, but I'll get the information for Thursday. I wanted to know how many children we're talking about for these 4 different services. I was thinking, why are we just using this one entity, this new entity that's out of town? Does it save us money? And why are we and that's why I was asking them about the number of vendors. So it was interesting to me. So if Lori or whoever.
Yeah, we can get you that specific information. UHMC?
Yeah, UMHC, yeah.
Okay, we can certainly look into it.
And I noticed the CEO is leaving. So I was concerned about that, but he got a great award in 2024 for being the greatest CEO. So I don't know about that transition, but they have lots of case managers, which is a great thing. So anyway, okay, I'll move on. And I heard Dr. Jenny mention about the mandated service may have to be, if it's not mandated, you might have to eliminate. And I was just wondering if I could get a list of what is mandated.
Yes.
And how many of those it is and what the money amount would be.
Happy to provide that to you.
Great. And lastly, for me,
Can I interject? And the converse of that. So asking for the mandated, and also asking for the not mandated.
Sure.
I'm just, because that's.
Well, I figured if it wasn't on the list, it's not mandated.
But if we don't, but if it's a list, give us the list of mandated and not mandated.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it.
Don't do it again.
Yeah, it's like a flash. I'm like, wait a
That
minute.
was great. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, we'll have.
We can certainly look through that and assess mandated versus non-mandated and get you a list of that.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. That helps see the whole picture. And lastly, on the consultant, I know we had discussion last time about our consultant, but I'm just wondering, is a consultant mandated for you guys to do the review? And the reason why I ask that is we see the picture, we see what's going on. It seems like to me we would not need a consultant for the same purpose that we did before, but really somebody, I don't know, accountant maybe, that could say the percentage if we considered increase. And I'm not saying we are, but that we probably don't need a consultant to the extent that we did before. So.
Absolutely. The consultant is not mandated by any means, but it is a part of the tax levy review process. It's a part of the overall governance and the operation of the tax levy committee that every entity coming before for a levy is subject to a consultant review. We have, in really the last 10 years or so, done our best to try to customize those reviews to get at what each of the agencies truly needs and what's beneficial for the levy committee and the agencies in those reviews. This will be largely focused on looking at kids in care and looking at employment and trying to see what we're seeing in Ohio and nationally, and if there are any recommendations that can be made to better fit for Hamilton County.
Okay. And so when you look at a consultant, it's just a small little portion of what we're even talking about. So if we can get a better picture, that'll be good. So, all right, thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Reese.
Yeah, I'll be brief because I don't want to go back and forth on a debate because I have another appointment I got to get to. But I do want to ask and get this information. I like to go through those numbers. It's not something we got to do right now because we're talking about next year. But, you know, for people who might be watching, we went from $100 million that was sitting around and we were trying to come up with programs. And now we've gone to, man, we can't, you know, we hope we can make it. And so some might be watching and say, when it gets time for the levy, all of a sudden now we broke.
Right.
But when we didn't have a levy, we were trying to come up and create programs to spend the $100 million. So I'd like to get with you just to comb through the numbers so I got a better understanding. You know, and I want to thank everybody on the TLRC that volunteers on this. We're in a very tough, peculiar spot right now because property taxes have jumped through the roof. I've seen them on the elevators crying because they can't pay, people who always could pay. So we're trying to have a balance for obviously what is mandated, but for them, just in, I think it was around the November mark, we were saying we got $100 million, and I thought said if we took out 50%, we could pay for our employees, which would allow us to have another $50 million that could be available for new programs. And you even talked about some preventive programs. Right. So don't have time to debate it today, but we'll have another shot, another bite at the apple. but I do want to kind of sit down with you and get a better understanding of the numbers. Because if I'm not here and I'm watching this, I'm like, wait a minute, you had $100 million yesterday. Now you say you almost broke. So I want to get a better understanding and comb through the numbers.
Happy to sit down with you, Commissioner, and go over the details of that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I just want to say, I don't want it to, the characterization that we were just looking for things to fund through this levy, it is not my reality. We were looking for things that would be to the benefit of kids in this community, particularly those in care, that we could spend levy dollars on to support those kids. So this characterization that we were just walking around looking for programs to fund, is something that I don't agree with. So anyways, yeah. So thank you for the presentation. So do you need direction from us at this moment in time related to timing?
Strictly looking for guidance that the commissioners would not have an issue with moving forward with a consultant in the TLRC process earlier this year. The next steps would be to work on that scope for the consultants with JFS and then retain a consultant. And the next step to the commissioners would be bringing forward that consulting contract later this summer.
Commissioner, I am of the opinion that we should do this sooner than later. Do you concur?
I agree. I was just wondering about the timeline for the consultant since we are ahead of the game. If we agree today, does that mean you're going to hire a consultant next week? Or
we had the timeline on that.
July.
It was looking, I was looking at getting a consultant started in July or August, wrapping up the midterm reports for the TLRC as well, trying to get those done in advance of that. And then the report would go to the commissioners ideally by April of next year.
That's fine.
Yeah. Right. I think you've got your direction. Thank you. All right. Thank you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks again for the TLRC.
Yes.
And to all the members of the TLRC.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. We have concluded our agenda. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Dreehouse?
Yes.
Commissioner Summer Dumas?
Yes.